Greetings everyone, I'm Sophis. Today I'll be covering a build for the other subculture we're getting with the Dark Culture Rework. The Cult of Death is the more distinct of the two from how Dark Culture played out pre-patch, and it is quite strong. In combat, its main strength comes from, as expected, units dying. Doesn't matter if it is a summon, the enemy, or your own units. Every unit with the passive will get a boost when it triggers. For this reason, Warlocks and Death Knights are good heroes to pair with the subculture, similarly to how they play well with Cult of Tyranny. However, where in Cult of Tyranny you'll want to focus on the pack that debuffs an enemy target, here you want the pack that can give a chosen unit Resurgence. The reason is very simple. Cult of Death has an array of tools that simply work great with this strategy. You can give your units healing and an extra turn's worth of action. The cost is that unit expires at the end of the turn. So, if you can give them Resurgence, you don't have to miss out on their value once the battle is over. And, more importantly, this subculture has the single strongest healing effect in the game. I'm not sure if this will remain as it is, but I will demonstrate and talk about it as it stands. For the considerable low cost of 60 casting points, mana, and an embalmed corpse, you can give a full heal to all your units province-wide. Let me emphasize the full heal and province-wide part. Age of Wonders 4 is very balanced around healing being a complex process, not something you can just smooth over with a couple support units and just move around the map taking on battles completely fresh. Of course, the restricting cost is the embalmed. These take a hero in your crypt to produce. However, if you really want to, you can set up farms for the resource. There's a handful of infestations like pirate coves and brigand camps that send invasions with heroes attached. If you never destroyed them, you'll have a steady source of embalmed. Being at war with city-states and regular enemies of course also give you a steady source, but those often come with reputation and diplomacy penalties if you execute them. In any case, just by going slightly out of my way, I was able to farm a good amount. And since the heal is province-wide, and it's not every turn you need a full recovery, you'll be set for the rest of the match. Now, when it comes to the army composition, the idea is simple. The Deathstalker, the tier 3 unit from the subculture, scales well with the passive that triggers on death, and is a very decent frontliner with an aggressive ability to jump right into combat, which can also be very useful to jump up walls during sieges. A natural unit to complement this is the Shade, which as a skirmisher unit can work as a backline or reinforce the front lines as necessary. But the other interesting units are the ones you get from Tome of Evolution and Tome of Dragons. The reason why is the Youthful Rejuvenation spell. This low-cost healing spell grants units that evolve Resurgence. So while you can use zombies and other low-tier units like the Immortals as throwaways to trigger your passive, by adding in dragons to the mix you can have more durable expendable units. This lets you throw them more recklessly into combat and have them lock down and disrupt the enemy backline. And at the end of combat, you still get them back no matter what. So your general army composition will be Warlock heroes, Deathstalkers, Shades, and Dragon units, as well as the free summons you get with the Warlock. With raised zombie spells and other abilities, you will have many expendable units to throw at your enemies, and then of course get rewarded for sacrificing them. If a more expensive unit doesn't have Resurgence, it is pretty harmless to cast Death Waltz on a decaying zombie unit to get a few more hits in on an enemy. Now let's talk about the faction setup. The form traits here are meant to assist the Deathstalker and Shade specifically, flanking bonuses to damage, giving enemies a chance to fumble in melee, and increasing overall damage. Every little bit of extra damage helps when your units have a good critical hit chance. The society traits are Prolific Swarmers and Swift Marchers. We need those two for the Chaos Affinity. Reducing the cost of both assassin units we'll be fielding is quite valuable, and the extra mobility from Forced March without the HP cost is good. Besides, Even with the no recovery malus, you still recover quite well away from your territory thanks to the Cult of Death's impressive healing spell. Now let's get to the tomes. Necromancy is here to give you more throwaway units, primarily. Skeletons are cheap to raise, and sometimes you may want reinforcements. Evolution, for reasons I went into more detail before, are here for the ability to give units with Evolve Resurgence. That makes them very expendable. You'll also get Wyvern Fledglings, a good summon to scout or reinforce in the early stages of the game. Very easy to replace. Shades bring the unit of the same name to the fold, and the enchantments just play well for both them and the Death Stalkers. Defense Bypass is a very strong ability to have, especially on melee units prone to critical hits. Artifice as well as Devastation are of interest just for their respective critical hit enchantments. Dragons is here as the continuation of the benefits from Evolution. The young dragons you can recruit are the upgrades to your expendable frontline, something to mix in with the zombies. Draconic Transformation also gives your assassins Draconic Rage for extra damage. Cycles gives damage enchantments for both melee and the backline, as well as a higher tier backline unit if you use the Mortalists and want an upgrade with the Druid of the Cycle. Nature's Wrath, admittedly, is picked mostly for affinity reasons, but it provides you with a spell to shut down higher tier units and an alternative to Death Waltz that works in an area in exchange for making your units go berserk. Then it wraps up with Goddess of Nature, the last buff to critical hit chance in the build. Pretty straightforward. So this is the build. The idea was to make something out of a Cult of Death that wasn't simply necromancy focused, and to play around instead with Resurgence and critical hits to give you an army that builds up momentum on the battlefield, then recovers quickly once the battle is done. And that's what I have for you today. I hope you're having a good day and see you in the next one.